Okay, so I spent the day putting pathways in to all of my beds. So now I have 11 beds total, plus this goofy triangular one at the very end, which I'll probably use for like slug control, bok choy and mustard and stuff like that. I thought I would measure pH again since I've tilled these beds, and we're reading right up near 7 too. So if that's accurate, then I don't need any lime on these beds. Okay, I just watered the cucumbers. It's hot out today, about 65 Fahrenheit, which is hot for us. And I don't know, right here by the entrance to the greenhouse, we've got 83 degrees in here. And then I've got both doors open. I've got basil on drip. I'll probably run it for about an hour. So then we're gonna get a partly cloudy day tomorrow, and then it's supposed to rain. But let me tell you, let me show you how my chard's doing. For example, these are the little guys that I, grew in my soil blocks and transplanted out, and they're doing fine. Check this out. These are the ones that I pulled from the greenhouse, and I think some of the leaves will survive, but yeah, they are having a rough time. And I just decided to go ahead and pull all of the row cover off of everything. Oh, what the hell, root maggot fly, migrating birds, I don't know. I just figure they're better out. And so my work for the day is to get these 2 beds seeded with carrots. I don't have any decent sifted finished compost to throw on and then plant right into that. Looking at these things, thinking about having to hand seed pelleted seeds in here, and I don't know, but I thought it might be important to go ahead and get like the spinach and the radishes put in the ground. And those need to be direct seeded, and there's smaller sections. And we're gonna go out beside the 2 carrot beds here to where we're gonna plant some spinach alternatives and spinach. So at the far end, I'm gonna do this Fire Fresh, which is supposed to be like a baby Swiss chard. And then I'm going to do Space, which is a type of spinach. And then something that, when I was looking for spinach options, something that Benny from Norway was suggesting was New Zealand spinach might be an option. So I'm just going to do a little tiny test here of that. We're getting a little bit of shading on the garden at this point. This stuff is really chunky. I don't know if you can see, there's just like a bunch of rocks and sticks and things. Okay, so I did 5 feet of Swiss chard, 5 feet of space spinach, and I don't know, about 2.5 feet of that New Zealand spinach. And now I'm going to go over here. This is the bed where there's my shadow. This is where the lettuce went in. Hurrah! And so I'm going to plant radishes at the end here. And dip-de-doo. Oh, so I'm putting in Roxanne Radishes, which did really great. Last year did really great early in the greenhouse. This year, and I do not know, there's not a lot of nutrients in the soil at the top here. This is like super sandy soil stuff because this is like part of the new plot. Woo. So I did 8 feet of the Roxanne Radish. Now we're gonna wander over to the end here in this little triangular section of funky chicken bed over here. And I am going to plant, I've got some tiny bit of mustard greens and bok choy. I didn't probably order enough. These are kind of like for slug trappy, not whatever you want to call it. It maybe attracts the slugs away from other things. Dip-de-doo. So I'm just gonna, I think, I don't know, use it all up, I guess. Okay, so I ended up not using all of that seed because then I'm gonna use, I think I'm gonna do a couple transplants of bok choy and mustard and maybe put some of those someplace else. I'll set you guys down right here. I'm going to take some of that BioThrips row cover and put it on the direct seeded stuff just so that the birds won't scratch in it. And yeah, I don't think I'll water the stuff in because it's gonna rain not tomorrow but the next day. Okie doke, so I called Johnny's this morning. She's saying that their suppliers, which, you know, sell the Jang and some other things, you know, they're still taking kind of a couple weeks to get places. So I may end up go ahead and direct seeding these carrots, but I'm not going to do it today. Plus, I need to really think through, like, how am I going to prep those beds for the carrots? Maybe talk about compost later. My issues with my compost and stuff. So now I'm going to go ahead and plant out today dill, my huge parsley bed, green onions, cilantro. The scarlet kale is going to go out later. Alrighty, so I am going to be planting into this bed right here, and we're going to start with parsley. I'll set you down here. Alright, so that was parsley, curly, and Italian. 4 rows, 7.5-inch spacing. I'm gonna move you guys back here, and we are gonna plant some dill. Okay, so we've got cilantro and green onions next. I'm gonna do cilantro, same spacing as the parsley and dill. You can see I got the green onions done. I was working away planting the cilantro, and then I checked the phone and it said it's too hot to operate this thing, so I had to put it in the shade. So anyway, I ended up, my note said that I should plant the onions 5 rows and 4-inch maybe question mark in row spacing, but I ended up just planting them the same as all the other herbs. What I've decided to do is prep my one last bed that I have. It's going to be either overwintered kale or carrots. And so I want to talk really quick about my compost. So compost, last year, or it was the year before, whenever, I was piling the seaweed up like 5 feet tall or whatever, and it would just like, the bugs would just, you know, use up whatever oxygen was in it, and then it would just compact down, and then it would start anaerobically composting. So anyway, what I did was I took some of that stuff that had from one bin and chucked it over into this other one, which had some stuff in it too, and it reeked, man. It was really bad. And I thought, well, it'll just sit there and it'll compost. Well, I'm digging into it this year. The top layer was kind of like mostly kind of broken down seaweed, and then I got down to the lower stuff, and then there's a lot of really broken down, like just dirt looking stuff, right? But then I'm running into like seaweed, like it almost just came off the beach in places, right? Especially in the center. So I had hoped that this stuff would be kind of finished compost, but it's really not, although I could probably screen some stuff out of there and have some decent stuff for soil mix. That's my biggest concern. I need to have some stuff left over that I can put into my soil mix for next year's transplants. Yeah, so it's actually worse as I'm getting down to the bottom here. Look, that is just like smashed seaweed, dudes. That is not compost, but it'll work for what I'm doing. Okay, so I got the rotted seaweed on this bed. I think it's something kale would love to stick their toes in. I got that pathway all dug out. I thought the bugs were gonna get the best of me, but I made it through. So all the beds have been formed. I haven't raked out these 2 beds, but good enough, right? And so those should be permanent beds, 12-inch pathways, and hopefully I just have to maintain them in the future. bucket of soil blocks that didn't germinate, so I'm just going to reuse these, see how that works for making a new set of soil blocks. It would be just really nice if I could throw some nice sifted compost on the top, and they would have a nice, carrots would have a nice bed to germinate in. The compost, that method I was using of just piling up the seaweed is like, it's a complete failure. What I did this last time was, I've been, you know, the fall and winter when I was getting seaweed, I would put in some seaweed and layer it with some shredded cardboard, and then wait a while and put some seaweed on top, you know, and that stuff actually looked better than the stuff I'm digging into now. I've been thinking about what to do with my carrots, and I've been thinking, you know, my biggest problem in that original garden area is not so much fertility, probably, is, I mean, the soil is probably decent. So I think that really my biggest problem is with, you know, the germination is the irregularity of the soil, because there's so many rocks and stuff like that. Sun came out for a minute, now the clouds come back. Ooh. So I did like a flat, it's gonna be like cilantro and Salanova lettuce, and another one that's going to be like dill and something else. And I've got one here that's gonna be basil, and I think I'm only gonna do 3 successions of basil, so we'll see if that'll do me for the second one. And then over here I'm doing green onions, and I had a few extra so that I could do some bok choy. What is it? Dill and what? Okay, let's see here. What does it say? What does it say we're supposed to do? Oh yeah. So the dill is going to go with the Siberian kale. That's the kale that I want to overwinter. And so that's what's going to be in that flat. So it's a little goofy, and the number's a little bit goofy, but that's kind of the plan. Stan. Today I've got just a few things I gotta do before it rains. It's supposed to rain for like 3 days. So I've got my scarlet kale right here that I want to plant out into this bed right here. And that's also going to be Siberian kale when those starts get ready. And then what's my little list say? Oh yeah, I want to hoe all these beds over here in the new garden plot, and plant some clover in between them. So undersow with clover. And then before I actually plant the scarlet kale, these 2 beds, oh, there's a robin. The 2 beds, what's he got in his mouth? A bug, maybe? Anyway, so yeah, I want to put some lime and rock phosphate, since these 2 beds are, for the overwintered carrots and kale, are in the new plot area. And then, oh, yeah, so then I've got these 2 beds over here in the old garden plot that are planned for carrots, and I am going to go ahead and try and, I think, sift, just really roughly sift one of the beds and plant it out. It'd be nice if I had just like a colander or something manageable, but I have this screen that I use to sift out the soil for my soil start mix. But let's see here. I don't know how I want to do this. I might want to just use the shovel, but I kind of need to, I only want to do just a little, like a couple of inches on the surface, right? And then just run this through, and gotta keep going that way. Okay, so check this out. Super nice and fine. And as long as it doesn't take me 100 years to get this bed done, I'm gonna be planting carrots today. Everything's sifted. I tried to use a rake to mark my 5 rows, but anyway, I ended up just using my little stick. Oh, little buddy. We're going to be using Romance because I couldn't get Yaya. Yeah. Okay, so if I had a cedar, this would take me like 1 minute to do. And no telling how long this is going to take me to hand seed this sucker. Okie dokie. Got some Bowthrips row cover on here just to keep the birds out. That should let some water in. Okay folks, so I got some fairy dust for my sugar snap peas. I'm gonna just sprinkle this on there. Boy, it better rain and not just sprinkle. Hey folks, so it's a great week. Got everything seeded and transplanted, and I'm gonna take a couple days off. See you next week. Okay, little buddy, I gotta get a hoe. I gotta go get a hoe. Hang on. It's okay. You can eat the skunk cabbage.